안녕하세요. 미국 주식으로 온 태학이 미주은입니다. 안녕이라는 인사말이 내포하고 있듯이 아무 탈 없이 편안하게 잘 지내고 계시리라 믿습니다. 저는 개인적으로요, 지난 방송에서 잠깐 언급드린 것처럼 제가 일하고 있는 곳의 비즈니스 환경이 록다운으로 인해 많이 악화되었거든요. 그래서 호텔에 일하고 있는 부서장분들을 대부분 휴가 보내고요. 저 역시도 앞으로 2주간 연차를 사용하기로 했습니다. 호텔에 비즈니스가 거의 없는 상황이 돼버렸거든요. 이렇게 어려운 상황으로 인해서 어쩔 수 없이 맞이하게 된 휴가지만요. 그동안 지나친 강행군으로 지쳐있던 저의 심신을 달래는데 적지 않은 도움이 될 것으로 기대하고 있습니다. 이렇게 뭔가 마음은 좀 무거워도요, 미존 패밀리 멤버와 함께 만든 첫 번째 기획 방송이기에 즐거운 마음으로 오늘 방송도 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 이번 주 미존 방송에서는요, 일주일 내내 스퀘어 스페셜 위크를 여러분들과 함께 하고 있습니다. 오늘은 그 마지막 순서가 됐네요. 6번째 순서 잭도시 인터뷰 파트 4를 여러분들께 보내드리도록 하겠습니다. 개인적인 바람이 있다면요, 이번에 저를 도와주신 이석원님처럼 제2의 이석원님을 기다리도록 하겠습니다. 각 분야에서 전문 지식과 경험을 공유해 주실 분들 계시면요, 언제든지 저한테 연락 부탁드립니다. 1월 24일 일요일 방송의 제목은요, 미존 패밀리와 함께 만드는 스퀘어 스페셜 위크 6번째 순서 스퀘어 CEO 잭도시 인터뷰 파트 4입니다. 오늘 인터뷰 마지막 부분은요, 굉장히 짧은데요, 한 9분여 진행될 것 같습니다. 오늘 그 내용 중에 하이라이트로 볼 수 있는 부분은요, 잭도시는 하루에 한 끼만 먹는 사람으로 유명한데요, 어쩌다가 하루 한 끼만 먹게 됐는지 그 이유가 궁금해집니다. 그리고 죽음과 삶의 소중함, 또한 삶의 의미와 행복, 오늘은 어떻게 보면 약간 철학적인 그런 대화를 나누는 순서가 될 것 같습니다. 미주은을 사랑해 주시고 아껴 주시는 분의 숫자가 이제 20만 명이라는 굉장히 의미 있는 숫자를 향해 달려가고 있습니다. 오늘 혹시 처음으로 미주은 방문해 주신 분들 계시면요, 환영의 말씀 그리고 감사의 말씀 드리고 싶습니다. 구독 그리고 좋아요는요, 여러분과 제가 함께 부자가 되는 길입니다. 그럼 스퀘어 스페셜 위크 마지막 방송 바로 시작합니다.
So I think you and I eat similar diets, and at least I was.
The first time I've heard this.
Yeah, so I was doing it.
First time anyone has said that to me. In this case, anyway.
Yeah, but it's becoming more and more cool, but I was doing it before it was cool. So the intermittent fasting and fasting in general, I really enjoy. I love food, but I enjoy I also love suffering because I'm Russian, so fasting kind of makes you appreciate what it is to be human somehow. So, but I have outside the philosophical stuff, I have a more specific question. It also helps me as a programmer and a deep thinker, like from the scientific perspective, to sit there for many hours and focus deeply. Maybe you were a hacker before you were CEO. What have you learned about diet, lifestyle, mindset that helps you maximize mental performance, to be able to focus, to think deeply in this world of distractions?
I think I just took it for granted for too long.
Which aspect?
Just the social structure of we eat 3 meals a day and there's snacks in between, and I just never really asked the question, why?
Oh, by the way, in case people don't know, I think a lot of people know, but you at least, you famously eat once a day.
Yeah.
You still eat once a day?
Yep. I eat dinner.
By the way, what made you decide to eat once a day? Like, because to me, that was a huge revolution, that you don't have to eat breakfast. That was like, I felt like I was a rebel. Like like abandoned my parents or something and became an anarchist.
When you first, like the first week you start doing it, it feels you kind of like have a superpower.
Yeah.
And then you realize it's not really a superpower. But I think you realize, at least I realized, like it just how much our mind dictates what we're possible of. And sometimes we have structures around us that incentivize, like, you know, this 3 meal a day thing, which was purely social structure versus necessity for our health and for our bodies. And I did it I started doing it because I had played a lot with my diet when I was a kid, and I was vegan for 2 years and just went all over the place. Just because health is the most precious thing we have, and none of us really understand it. So being able to ask the question through experiments that I can perform on myself and learn about is compelling to me. And I heard this one guy on a podcast, Wim Hof, who's famous for doing ice baths and holding his breath and all these things. He said he only eats one meal a day. I'm like, wow, that sounds super challenging and uncomfortable. I'm gonna do it. So I learn the most when I make myself, I wouldn't say suffer, but when I make myself feel uncomfortable, because everything comes to bear in those moments, and you really learn what you're about or what you're not. So I've been doing that my whole life. Like when I was a kid, I could not speak. Like I had to go to a speech therapist, and it made me extremely shy. And then one day I realized I can't keep doing this, and I signed up for the speech club, and it was the most uncomfortable thing I could imagine doing. Getting a topic on a note card, having 5 minutes to write a speech about whatever that topic is, not being able to use the note card when I was speaking, and speaking for 5 minutes about that topic. So, but it gave me so much perspective around the power of communication, around my own deficiencies, and around if I set my mind to do something, I'll do it. So it gave me a lot more confidence. So I see fasting in the same light. This is something that was interesting, challenging, uncomfortable, and has given me so much learning and benefit as a result. And it will lead to other things that I'll experiment with and play with. But yeah, it does feel a little bit like a superpower sometimes. The most boring superpower one can imagine.
No, it's quite incredible. The clarity of mind is pretty interesting. Speaking of suffering, you kind of talk about facing difficult ideas. You meditate. You think about the broad context of life, of our societies. But let me ask I apologize again for the romanticized question, but do you ponder your own mortality? Do you think about death, about the finiteness of human existence when you meditate, when you think about it? And if you do, how do you make sense of it, that this thing ends?
Well, I don't try to make sense of it. I do think about it every day. I mean, it's a daily, multiple times a day.
Are you afraid of death?
No, I'm not afraid of it. I think it's a transformation. I don't know to what, but it's also a tool to feel the importance of every moment. So I just use it as a reminder, like, I have an hour. Is this really what I'm going to spend the hour doing? Like, I only have so many more sunsets and sunrises to watch. Like, I'm not going to get up for it. I'm not going to make sure that I try to see it. So it just puts a lot into perspective, and it helps me prioritize. I think I don't see it as something that's like that I dread or is dreadful. It's a tool that is available to every single person to use every day, because it shows how precious life is. And there's reminders every single day, whether it be your own health or a friend or a coworker or something you see in the news. So it's to me, it's just a question of what we do with that daily reminder. And for me, it's am I really focused on what matters? And sometimes that might be work, sometimes that might be friendships or family or relationships or whatnot, but it's the ultimate clarifier in that sense.
So on the question of what matters, another ridiculously big question of, once you try to make sense of it, what do you think is the meaning of it all? The meaning of life? What gives you purpose, happiness, meaning?
A lot does. I mean, just being able to be aware of the fact that I'm alive is pretty meaningful. The connections I feel with individuals, whether they people I just meet or long-lasting friendships or my family, is meaningful. Seeing people use something that I helped build is really meaningful and powerful to me. But that sense of, I mean, I think ultimately it comes down to a sense of connection, and just feeling like I am bigger. I am part of something that's bigger than myself, and like I can feel it directly in small ways or large ways, however it manifests. Is probably it.
Last question. Do you think we're living in a simulation?
I don't know. It's a pretty fun one if we are, but also crazy and random and wrought with tons of problems. But
Or
yeah,
would you have it any other way?
yeah. I mean, I just think it's taken us way too long to, as a planet, to realize we're all in this together, and we all are connected in very significant ways. I think we hide our connectivity very well through ego, through whatever it is of the day. But that is the one thing I would want to work towards changing, and that's how I would have it another way. Because if we can't do that, then how are we going to connect to all the other simulations? Because that's the next step, is like what's happening in the other simulation.
Escaping this one and spanning across the multiple simulations and sharing it and on the fun. I don't think there's a better way to end it. Jack, thank you so much for all the work you do.
There's probably other ways that we've ended this in other simulations that may have been better.
We'll have to wait and see. Thanks so much for talking today.
Thank you.
오늘 제가 준비한 내용은 여기까지입니다. 이것으로서 일주일간 보내드렸던 스퀘어 스페셜 위크는 마무리가 되었고요. 다시 한번 쉽지 않은 인터뷰 영상 내용을 직접 번역해 주시고 자막 작업까지 도와주신 스퀘어의 소프트웨어 엔지니어 이석원님께 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 저는 가까운 미래에 또 다른 미주온 패밀리 멤버분과의 콜라보 방송을 기획할 수 있기를 학수 기대해 보겠습니다. 이번 기획 영상에서는요, 다양한 인생의 토픽에 대해서 스퀘어의 CEO 잭도 씨가 가지고 있는 삶의 철학과 그의 인사이트를 들어보았는데요. 우리가 살면서 확고한 마음을 가지고 믿고 있는, 아니 믿고 싶은 소위 진리라는 것들은요, 사실 조금만 자세히 들여다보면 우리가 가지고 있는 개인적인 의견에 지나지 않는 경우가 많습니다. 그리고 이렇듯 우리를 정의해주고 우리에게 정체성을 부여해주는 우리의 의견들은요, 대부분 우리가 살아온 환경에 의해 형성되게 됩니다. 즉, 우리가 삶을 영위해온 국가나 지역, 또 그곳의 문화와 언어, 그리고 사회 통념, 나아가서는 우리의 부모, 형제, 학교, 선생님, 친구, 우리가 읽은 책들, 심지어는 우리가 보는 신문이나 방송의 색깔에 따라서 우리의 의견은 많은 부분 지배를 받습니다. 제가 6개나 되는 국가에서 20여 년 살아오면서 느낀 점은요, 이 세상에는 너무나 다양한 삶의 방식과 삶의 환경, 종교, 문화, 언어 등이 존재해서요, 다른 사람들이 나와 똑같은 생각을 가져주기를 바라는 것 자체가 지나친 욕심일 수 있다는 점입니다. 반면 우리가 절대 포기하거나 양보할